Guys, Dodger Dave here. So, the LDS Church, I maintain, is a microcosm in a larger system of control, of brainwashing the sheeple. If that sounds crazy to you, stay tuned. Try fact-checking instead of being manipulated by mind control techniques that are used upon us to use social pressure to get us to feel like, that's conspiracy theory. Let's not look at it. That's anti-Mormon stuff. The devil might get a hold of it if we listen to that. What I just now pointed out here is how the same techniques are used in multiple venues to manipulate our thinking so that we will not fact check, so that we will avoid looking into the devil in the details, because the devil is in the details, as that saying truly represents to us. So in Mormonism, we've been programmed to believe certain things, and I've shown multiple times how the LDS Church uses sophisticated techniques to alter our thinking patterns and our behavior, to keep our minds lined up in the mode of non-questioning obedience to LDS leaders as prophets, seers, and revelators for the all-knowing, unchanging Israelite perfect God. But as a microcosm of a much larger network which the LDS leaders belong to, which includes the pedophile network, which I have shown on my website and in videos, which I will make sure you're aware of if you're not aware of right now, going to my website. What we're going to do today, though, is I'm going to illustrate. I'm going to illustrate in the larger venue how the same techniques that the LDS Church uses to distort our thinking and to keep us from fact-checking are used upon us to create the worldview that we are given by the institutions that indoctrinate us, whether it's at your church or in your school or on the media or in music. Everywhere certain ideas are being thrust upon us constantly, so that if you don't believe that, you're some kind of a weirdo. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy nut. Yeah, so you don't want to go there. So we're going to scare you through social pressure from fact-checking. So what about the flat earth question? I mean, does that really pertain that much to Mormonism? Well, the Bible says that the earth is flat. If you look at the original language that's used there, it's a disc that's being described. Now, in the 19th century, there were Christians who were really promoting that idea, and I guess they are the founders of or said to be by my friend who was discussing this with me in a text message, who really started arguing with about the scientific principles involved with whether or not the Earth is a spinning ball. So how about I just show you how simple this argument is? It's much simpler than either the flat earthers or the globulars make it to be. Now, why is that? Well, I'm going to propose that it's for the same reason that we have the same situation in the LDS Gospel Topics essays. If we go to the LDS Gospel Topics essays, maybe we'll do that first. We're okay on the LDS Church's website. Consistently, in essay after essay, when they are basically being forced to admit that they've been completely dishonest with us for a long time, well, they confuse us about the issues intentionally and then tell us, well, the only real way to know if the church is true is to pray about it. The only real way to know if the book of Abraham is true, even though it's filled with fraud and Joseph Smith lied and said that it was, the papyrus were written by the hand of Abraham. The only real way is to pray about it, because they confuse us and they keep the argument in such an area and exclude very important information from the discussion, from two sides of a discussion, a side that they control and a side that you didn't think they controlled. And that's done in so many things in this world. Maybe I'll just read the introduction to this, just so we get a flavor for how information is, how we're programmed to self-filter information to avoid things that would be problematic for a particular belief system. Because we're going to see that that is done on a much larger scale on a lot of things that we take for granted. Whether it's the home of the free and the land of the brave, whether it's a God-given Constitution of the United States, or whether it's, do we live on an earth that is a rotating globe that we're stuck to by some magical force called gravity that makes tons of sense, right? If you really examine it. Or is it really flat just like it looks? Just like it looks. I'm looking at a very, very big lake in the shore across, which we're going to discuss in the video, so I'm not going to spoil that. Okay, in the 1830s, when the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was less than 3 years old, okay, there's the first lie. That wasn't the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the early 1830s. It became that in about 1838. So they're starting off with a lie. The Lord invited members of the church to seek wisdom by study and by the exercise of faith. And what is faith? Well, it's our ability to believe a premise that doesn't have adequate evidence supporting it. What's adequate, right? Quoting from the Doctrine and Covenants, which means quoting Jesus of Nazareth speaking through Joseph Smith in Mormonism. And as all have not faith, seek ye diligently and teach one another words of wisdom. Yea, seek ye out of the best books words of wisdom. Seek learning even by study and also by faith. Spoken by Jesus straight through the mouth of Joseph Smith, who was channeling him that day, in section 88 of the Doctrine and Covenants. This is more, the brethren tell us now, than a simple exhortation to learn about the gospel. It is an invitation from the Lord to recognize that not all sources of knowledge are equally reliable. Not all sources of knowledge are equally reliable, so we should mistrust stuff that doesn't come from approved channels, is what that implies, I would say. Continuing, seeking out of the best books does not mean seeking only one set of opinions. Oh, now we're going to sound like we're really fair and balanced like Fox News is, right? Because they are, right? But it does require us to distinguish between reliable sources and unreliable sources. Or you could just fact check the reliable sources, ones that are called reliable, and fact check the unreliable and find out that maybe you've got important truths or deception from any source. I mean, after all, didn't Brigham Young tell us that Satan would give us 9 truths to convince us of one lie? Okay, so Satan sounds like a pretty damn good source of truth there. If 90% of what we get from Satan is true, then all we got to do is fact check and throw out that one thing that we were conditioned to believe we could accept because everything else he said was true. Basic NLP principles, you're hooked after about 3. things that you can go ahead and fact check. And then your subconscious is going to start accepting pretty much everything that source says. So that's overkill, Satan. Come on. You don't need to be that good. That honest. Okay. Then again, how reliable was Brigham Young? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can be obtained, recognizing that today so much information about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can be obtained from questionable and often inaccurate sources. Officials of the church began in 2013 to publish straightforward, in-depth essays. Does that sound fair and balanced? A straightforward, in-depth essay should be fair and balanced. Shouldn't it? Shouldn't it just put, here are the facts, and let's look at this objectively. It shouldn't be apologetics, one-sided, polemics. It should in fact conform to that description of straightforward, in-depth, as an essay on a topic or on a number of topics. The purpose of these essays, which have been approved by the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, has been to gather accurate information from many different sources and publications and place them in the gospel topics section of the churchofjesuschrist.org, which formerly was LDS.org, where the material can be easily accessed. That's our selling point. And studied by church members and other interested parties. Okay, so the church is going to do all that filtering out for you. They're going to, the world, Satan is just everywhere, especially on the internet. And the church is going to it's just going to filter out all those lies and give you from a wide selection. So you've got information from the left and the right, the north and the south, the east and the west. I mean, you've got a really comprehensive view, and that terrible, any deception from Satan has been sifted out. So it's easy too. You can just go to the church's website. They've done that filtering for you. But still, it's just so. It's comprehensive. It's the place to go for information. Forget all those other websites. The church places great emphasis on knowledge and on the importance of being well informed about church history, doctrine, and practices. Even though we've lied about all of it before, we're coming clean, people. Ongoing historical research revisions of the church curriculum and the use of new technologies, allowing more systematic and thorough study of the scriptures, have all been pursued by the church. To that end, I'm smiling so big, people, because I'm so happy in the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm celebrating how the Lord has given us technology and prophets, seers, and revelation to make sure we are the people with the premier information on all important subjects pertaining to the gospel of Jesus Christ, the restored gospel of Jesus Christ in these last days, in the dispensation of the fullness of times. Wow. I feel so fulfilled I can hardly handle it. We again encourage members to study the gospel topics essays cited in the links below as they seek learning, even by study and also by faith. They've encouraged us so much that it's 2020 and I've yet to see this on the front page promoted. So anyway, I'm not going to go into one of them right this second. I've done that in other videos, especially on my website, on the web page entitled Gospel Topics Essays, here on Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub. So here I've got, narrative and videos that are subject, topic appropriate here So here we got the LDS Gospel Topics Essays in the Book of Mormon, etc. Here, this one's on race and priesthood and DNA in Book of Mormon. How accurate and honest are the Gospel Topics Essays on LDS.org? Now the Church of Jesus Christ.org, because LDS.org was a victory for Satan, according to what Russell Nelson's told us about saying anything but I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ. So, because we're all about Jesus, or they are. I'm still officially a member. Where's that excommunication notice? Okay. Of, what do you call it? The court of love or something? Okay, so here's our setting. Today I was working on this video, which is going to show how simple the information is, how easily solved something is with regard to this, flat Earth versus spinning globe thing, right? And yet the flat earthers, or the leadership of the flat earth movement, don't seem interested. From what I haven't looked at a lot of their videos, but when I looked at my first video on that, I just kind of accidentally ran into it or something. I was like, why are they using this stupid math that's designed to confuse us when it's really simple? Anyway, let's take a look at this. This is a little 10-minute thing, and part of the reason I'm doing this is because a friend of mine, was talking with me, and he said, Dave, your conspiracy theory stuff's out of control, bro. He goes, tell me, do you think they faked the landing on the moon? That's a litmus test for, 20th century humans, Dave. 21st. Like, of course they faked it. It's like, oh, you're one of those kooks, or you're like one of them. I go, you calling me a kook? He's like, well, that's what the kooks believe. So I also want to feature this video that I did a year ago on the 4th of July, not this most recent one, called 4th of July, Celebrating Your Freedom to Make American Plantations Great Again for the Real Owners. And that really talks a lot about this bigger picture. So maybe we'll take a look at a little bit of that. I don't want to make this video too long. Let's look at this technique though here. Why do they ignore the simple stuff, people? All right, I'm gonna play this one through the stereo. I'm being so lazy, I don't want to edit this in. I'm just gonna play it because I don't have time. I should have been doing something else like an hour or two ago. Hey, what's up, guys? So this Dodger Dave anti-establishment video. I think I should call this an anti-establishment video, because everything that has been established as truth in our minds is highly questionable. And so today I'm going to ask, are the flat earthers lying to us? And if so, why? All of the flat earthers, or maybe just the ones who are in the leadership of the movement? Just like the leadership of all controlled opposition to what we have as established becomes questionable, like we've discovered with anti-Mormonism, how certain themes and certain arguments and certain discussions are managed on both sides of an argument, or what is made to appear of both opposite sides. Therefore, the discussion stays in between the bounds that the Lord has set. But how can that be with anti-Mormons? Are they staying within the bounds that the Lord has set? Which Lord are we talking about? Maybe leaders of both sides of discussions are answering to a higher power, a higher authority that controls them both, just like our political system works. When you notice that leaders of the Democrat Party and leaders of the Republican Party always answer and follow the foreign policy guidance they're given at the headquarters of the Council on Foreign Relations. You'll hear that from Dick Cheney, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. They all listen to the same people. It doesn't matter what party they're in. So
I'm going to propose that we've been lied to regarding the earth that we live on, and figuring that out is as easy as pie. Let's take a look at where I am here. That shore is about 30 miles away. It's in Canada, Windsor, Canada. I know it's about 30 miles because from where I am, I Googled directions to a hotel in Detroit. It was 35 miles and the line is relatively straight. So, and that's a little further south than Detroit. So maybe it's 33 miles south. So a while back, maybe it's been a couple of years actually, I just happened on some flat earth video, and they're showing shoreline across from somewhere on the Great Lakes. This lake isn't so great. It's smaller than the official Great Lakes. They are much larger. At any rate, the argument was being made that they could see the other shore and the buildings in, let's say it was Chicago, for instance, right? From a distance of, was it like 150 miles? Anyway. And of course, if the curvature of the Earth is the curvature of a circle, a ball, they wouldn't be able to see that. But that's not the measurement they were using. They were saying, they were using the measurement that the apologists for the presentation of the worldview we're given of living on a spinning ball give us, which was something like 8 inches. They say the curvature of the Earth is 8 inches, sloping 8 inches per mile, and then you square the number, because like the second mile's different from the first mile no matter where you start. How crazy is that, right? I was like, what are you talking about? I know what a circle is. Hey, I was a landscape contractor. You got to know what a circle is. These are circular. You notice the difference? Oh. But they tell us we're like an ant on a big ball. So you just don't notice it. So let's look at the math. Let's look at the math on that, because I'm looking like 30 miles. And my math, which is real math, not 8 inches per mile, then square it magically, because the second mile and the third mile are going to be different from the first mile. Even if you go there, then what, is the Earth changing? That's crazy. There's one formula for a circle. One. It doesn't change. It doesn't matter how big the circle is. This size. Maybe this versus this. So I got out. I was still in a room with a nervous breakdown, and I said, how can they, where do they get this crazy math, right? Where do they get this crazy math? I know what a circle is, okay? From the top of this guy, from the top to the bottom, okay? If that's 1 unit, whatever that unit is, let's pretend, well, with this one it's about 1 inch, right? So if it's 1 inch, then going around it, whatever this unit is, the distance from here to here, we call that 1, whatever that is, 1.57 times that will be the distance going around the circumference. We know that because going all the way around, you know, compared to this, that's called pi. That's 3.14 and a bunch of other numbers, right? So we'll just call that 3.14. You divide 3.14 by 2 because you're only going, you know, from the top to the bottom. It's 1.57. That never changes. It doesn't matter if it's really, 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 really big and you're like an ant on it. The curvature is a formula. It's a mathematical formula. A real simple thing you can do is you can prove it to yourself. You can see, from here to here, right? And then you'll see you take that same, and it'll be 2/3 of the way around. It'll always be. It doesn't matter if the thing's an inch or 10,000 miles. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a circle. That's why pi is a constant. When we're using it to determine area of a circle or something, it's always the same figure because the ratio is always the same. Got a level here. I was going to do this video somewhere else some other time, but you put this level up against stuff, when you're building a fence or a wall, if you were a mason. Hang on. Shit got away from me. Got a little breeze going here. So if you were a stone mason, whether or not you practiced Freemasonry, and I'm going to be on the level with you here today. We're going to be on the level, and I'm going to give you the 3rd degree on this flat Earth stuff, right? Basically, everything in our lives we have been conditioned to believe certain things. Why? Why do they keep the discussion within the bounds that the Lord has set? Your LDS, that relates to drawing a circle, small circle, bigger circle. Doesn't matter. The ratio is always the same. Here's a compass. It's like the compass on my hat. So I've got my Freemason and Illuminati symbols built in from the large corporations whose attire I'm wearing. Is that accidental? Is it accidental that it's in the LDS church? Is it accidental that Freemasonry controls all of these churches and our education system, as guided by the Jesuits above them? Is it? You think that's crazy conspiracy theory? That's what my friend Ronnie thought. He said, the ultimate test is, Dave, here's the litmus test for 20th century human life forms. Do you think we faked the... Did they fake the landing on the moon? I go, of course they faked the landing on the moon. Oh, so you believing what those kooks believe, Dave? What those kooks...
Oops, what happened? Hang on, people. Looks like my video had gotten cut off there. Okay, so it looks like part of that video was cut off and I wasn't even aware of it. So I went over and I used my level. Gee, what'd I do with that? On the fence nearby and so forth. A level is something, you see the bubble there? That tells you when you're level, lined up, you're going in a straight line. So if you got a fence, you got fence posts that you're making them plumbing them. So make sure they're at 90 degrees with the earth, going, fence post to fence post, and then you've got, your boards or maybe cable going across, like the one in Cardiff that I was wanting to use this with because they have parallel ones, and they just go on, just like train tracks. You think the track is curved? The point is, if you do the math here, if you do the math on a circle, it's basically a 3-to-2 ratio. You walk 3 feet, you know, you've gone down 2. Okay? So you walk a mile on a globe, you're actually, if you call yourself at the top, you know, if you say, okay, we're at the top here, or we're just going to call it the top for a point of reference. If you walked 1 mile, 5,280 feet, you're going to be going down towards, you know, this way on a 2-dimensional thing. You're dropping. If you go up, you know, you're going to be dropping 2/3 of that roughly. If you walked a mile, you'd be going down a kilometer. So when we're looking across the shore there, when we're looking across that shore, oh boy. Okay, if that's 30 miles away, that would have dropped 20 miles. That's the real math, not 8 inches and then squared. That's just bullshit that they make up to try to confuse the issue. My friend is like, no, David, you just don't understand trigonometry. You ought to take the time to educate yourself. Oh, is that like new truth cancels old truth? Because basically what you're saying here is that, you know, basic geometry would have to be not true, and it's all that's required to know what a circle is. Come on, we're talking about a circle here. This is where someone might say it's not rocket science, but actually it is. Yeah, and why is rocket science so confusing? It's because they have to bullshit you. Because it really is simple. Okay, in that video that I mentioned that we're probably going to take a look at, or at least just briefly, that I did, you know, like 12 and a half months ago. I mentioned, hey, flying to Costa Rica, 6-hour flight, right? So if the Earth was spinning at 1040, like the IRS form, 1,040 miles per hour at the equator, as they call it, then, well, Costa Rica would be long gone. When by the time you get there, you'd be out in the middle of the ocean, crash, eaten by sharks. And besides that, if it's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, try and land that. Gonna be hard. None of the science makes any sense. Real science says that our eyes are telling us the truth. We are on something that is relatively flat. Granted, we've got mountains and valleys to give variety to the surface of the earth, as they would say in the temple, right? But the fact is, looking out here, that should have dropped 20 miles. I'm looking at 60-foot trees over there, 30 miles away. Okay, even if it was only 8 inches and you didn't square it, we'd probably have problems, right? I mean, well, anyway, bottom line is their math doesn't work. It's very simple, and very often the answer to a lot of these issues is very simple. So what happens is you have a fake opposition. You have fake, you have controlled opposition from any viewpoint to keep the argument between two things that are presented as though they are opposites. You know, Democrat versus Republican, creationist versus evolutionist, Mormon versus anti-Mormon. But therefore, then the assumption is that all the truth is, you know, either one side or the other or somewhere. But the fact of the matter is those are not often. Capitalism versus socialism. Really? Socialism is capitalism. It's capitalized, but both are capitalized economies. The real opposite would be communism, or, you know, the strongest form of socialism, versus free enterprise, an unfettered economy. Capitalizing it is not part of whether or not that's a perception. That's a perception. And so we're told that it's this or it's that. And then they give us this bullshit math that confuses people. They give us bullshit in the LDS Gospel Topics essays, especially in the DNA and the Book of Mormon one, just to confuse the crap out of people so that they can go back to what they've been programmed to do, which is pray about it. And that's how you'll know. What did Dallin Oak say? Faithful members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints don't depend on any set of facts to determine truth. They know that they can pray and get the right answer, or words to that effect. I did that. I've got that quoted in the seminary. Is mind control video. Okay. So let's go to my page here. My thingy. You know what? Yeah, my window attachment thing. Give me a sec. Pause it, and I'll remount this. So the technique being used is to complicate an argument and confuse it when actually there's a simple. When there's much simple, the truth is usually a lot more simple. A lot more simple. So we have things presented to us that are confusing us, and then we're just told, well, we're just not smart enough. You're not so smart like Einstein. Where, like I said in the video, well, we never got to that part. I don't think Einstein was that smart. Okay, I'm pretty sure most, if not all, probably all my kids are smarter than Einstein. Einstein was marketed to us. Look at his history. No, they make him out to be like off the charts smart. He may have been fairly smart, but it's marketed to us that way so that it's the same principle as saying, well, God's ways are, you can't comprehend God, or his ways, God's ways are higher than your ways, and that's the kind of shit they give you when you look and you see these contradictions, and immorality of the Hebrew God in the Bible, and you're going in there like God's ways are higher than your ways. You'll just never understand it. It's incomprehensible. You're just too fucking stupid, right? That's what you're being programmed with. I mean, what does Christianity teach you? You're just a piece of shit, and you're carnal, sensual, and devilish, and without the atoning blood of Jesus Christ, you're nothing. Because God, I had this guy approached me yesterday, guy on a bike, and he asked me about where, anyway, it was about the gym and stuff, and we started talking, and oh God, did I lose my train of thought? Anyway, where'd it go? All right, so the guy tells me he believes in the Israelite God, and so we shared some thoughts, and I'm like, okay, so if there's an all-knowing, unchanging, God, this transcendent being, that he's really got his shit together, why are we ruled by psychopaths? Okay, I mean, seriously, either he doesn't have all power, or he doesn't give a shit. And what's this crap with the blood atonement? Why doesn't God, just if he's so freaking perfect, why doesn't he just forgive you your sins? Why can't he be forgiving? Why does he have to get paid in blood? Okay? And so he has his most perfect child who's never sinned be born half God, half man into the earth. But Christians would say he's 100% God and 100% man because it's new math, all right? Bottom line is the ultimate or infinite atonement has to be made to supersede the Jewish finite blood atonement, blood magic sacrifices to whatever demonic God Yahweh is, as one of the children of Yah, who is basically a rival of his hated brother Baal, right? If you look at like the previous pantheons from maybe the Akkadians. So and I look, probably the Hebrews actually were Canaanites tribes, a Canaanite tribe that broke off. Anyway, bottom line is, either he's not all powerful, because if he was, he could just forgive you, or he's not perfect and not forgiving. He's bloodthirsty. So in the Book of Mormon, they have that judgment versus mercy versus justice versus discussion in Alma, somewhere between chapters 40 and 42, right? And mercy can't rob justice. Well, why not? Why not? Why can't God just say, tell you what, I'm a perfect dude, I'll just forgive you. I don't have to be paid in blood. But the Israelites were having to pay in blood and constantly. And they were sacrificing, usually animals, except for maybe Moses in Numbers chapter 31, where Moses authorized the sacrifice of the Midianite women, except for his wife, of course. And then when the Roman, Emperor Titus Flavius commissioned the gospel writers to invent Jesus of Nazareth as a pacifist Messiah and to be sacrificed in the ultimate blood magic of an infinite atonement, as the Book of Mormon would call it, then you don't need these finite atonements anymore. Why do you need an atonement if God's perfect? He could just fucking forgive you, right? Okay, but no, he's got to be paid in blood. So then he'll have his boy Jesus come down. And then Christians somehow make Jesus out to be God the Father himself. And the Book of Mormon said that too. God himself shall come down to atone for his, come down among his people and atone for the sins or whatnot. Why would he need to? Why go through all that? If you're God, now you're going to sacrifice yourself as a human, half human, whatever the hell you want to call it, to satisfy a law that's greater than you? I thought you had all power, bro. Anyway, it makes no sense. No sense. Christianity is insane. It's insane. Okay, let's just take a quick peek at that video. I'm going to make this not too long. I'm supposed to have been doing some other work 2 hours and 27 minutes ago, I think. Tom Schultz, Boston, of Boston, who created Boston, talking about what a terrible employee he was for Polaroid or something like that when he was engineering the beginnings of Boston, so forth. That's what you got to do. You got to be, you got to split your time, and you're probably going to be a little eccentric to do this kind of stuff. And yeah, that's the way it is. Can't be two places at once. Unless, of course, you're the Israelite God. Then, of course, you can. So let's go over here to YouTube. Yeah, and I just want to reintroduce this. This video covered the subject very well, I think, about how our worldview is manipulated to control us, to get us to believe we're free people, land of the free, home of the brave, when we live in a privately owned set of privately owned plantations. And we have these holidays to program us to believe that we're free, and they encourage us to vote because, yeah, the bloodline people and the government really do give a shit about us.
Individuals who collect your used, containers of bloody. Somebody out there with power like you, so they're not shadow banning you. By directing the boards of directors of these 501c3 corporations, by creating policy guidelines so that we are told at church, so that we are told on the television set consistently certain things, even though we do have the Hegalean dialectic situation created for us so that we can find ways to fight with each other and be busy about bullshit like being a Republican versus a Democrat.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight just a couple of things. Oh, there that thing goes again. Yeah, so in the comments here, we had Travis Wayne Goodsell, who has a YouTube channel and is not only a very bright guy, he's done a lot of historical research. So I think I'll feature his comment and a couple other comments on another video real quick here first, because they all go into the management of the information that we are given, just like the church does. It's done on a much larger scale because the church is part and parcel of a large network where we are the slaves. All right, Dodger, I believe this video of my book, which was a back and forth YouTube debate with a troll pretending to be a Mormon, is the video you were mentioning with the changing roles of Brigham Young's Missionary 12 turning into the administrative quorum of the 12. So yeah, if you want to learn about the quorum of the 12 versus the traveling or the traveling high council, and see how the church's structure changed, I had mentioned that in this other video, and Travis is giving us a reference on that, which is appreciated, because I learned some things in watching that video of his about about the development of the structure of the church and the quorum of the 12 versus the high council of Zion and so forth. That's pretty interesting if you're at that stage where you're studying LDS church history. Okay, see if sorry that I have to do this way. I know if I go from horizontal to vertical, it's difficult. Okay, let's continue on in Travis's comment, though. Joseph's church never registered as a church, so all of it was a movement. All of it was a movement. Brigham Young, taking over his slaves, assumed succession, so he also didn't register the church as a church. It wasn't until 1923 when the church in Utah filed with the state to declare Mormons are not members, or in legal terms, the Mormon members no longer manage the organization now. So what does membership imply? Membership implies, hey, my vote counts, I'm part of this, right? Even though it comes from the top down, right? So there's some implied deception there. No longer manage the organization now. It's manager managed as a corporation. This was done in secret without Mormon members' knowledge or say. Here's that link with the actual documents filed by the church. So Travis has got actual documents on that. That may be of interest to some of you. So that's in the description of that video that we're looking at here. So when you consider the church is not a church but a corporation, okay, I don't know if it's not a church. I'd say it's whatever. Let's continue. Okay, it's both. What church isn't a corporation? But a corporation posing as a church, and then you realize that its business model is a pyramidal scheme. The LDS Church Movement Corporation or whatever is heading for a major crash, says Travis. Well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I think they're self-sufficient with the investments currently, it looks like, at Ensign Peak Advisors, with over $100 billion there, averaging a 7% return. They don't need one penny of tithing to even managing all these buildings. Okay. So again, that video is called July 4th Celebration, Your Freedom. July 4th, celebrating your freedom to make American plantations great again for the real owners. Done a year ago. Only got 152 views. That should have a lot of views because there was just a lot of comprehensive truth in that video. If I'm going to plug my own video, I have to say that was a good video. Hang on. Good video, Dave. Okay. I mean, I was watching. I was like, God, I got to keep watching it. I said, come on, what are you doing? What's going on here? So what I'm saying is that instead of being free people, we are actually slaves. The United States of America, the United States of Mexico, the United Kingdom, wherever you are enslaved, not just by the international banksters cartel out of Switzerland. That's definitely a big part of it, but I'm saying that a nation is not what you think it is. It is a privately owned plantation with stock. And if you read comprehensive annual financial reports or excerpts from them, especially ones that instead of just categorize their investments all over the world, because they operate effectively as transnational investment banks, your city, your state, your school district, not just your pension fund, not just CalPERS, CalSTRS, but the state of California, the city of Fresno, the city of Salt Lake. In some of these, as I was driving here, it would say, you're entering the corporation of, Toledo or something, right? Well, we just kind of let that blow by us. Don't think about what that really means. We're living in a set of privately owned plantations, and we are chattel property. Our worldview is presented and reinforced over and over to us in the media. I mean, you can have bits of truth told to you. In fact, you will hear things that are true, even on television, even in music. Well, let's go. But it's not like these musicians are all a bunch of truthers. They know what the truth is, because you don't get to the top. You don't get to the top without being initiated, at least without complying. You don't get far, and you're not going to be at the top without initiation into secret societies. And the hints of this are in various lyrics all over the place. Now, just about our world and the worldview that's presented, in other words, to make it, you've got to push that which is politically correct. Look at Jimmy Snow's channel, okay? Wear your mask, get your vaccinations, follow everybody except the LDS leaders that's considered politically correct. And that's what they all do. John Dehlin, that's what happens. That's what you've got to do. But some truth is revealed, like Californication. Okay, you listen to the lyrics there. They say that space is the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Are those idle words? I don't think so. Well, I know that they're not. But you constantly hear this promotion of Christianity and that we're on a spinning globe, even by heavy metal guys that say they're trying to act like bad boys, like Ozzy Osbourne. He wouldn't be where he is if he wasn't complying. Okay, that's all there is to it. Yet he will promote Christianity. You say, Ozzy promoting Christianity? Yeah, listen to the lyrics. They do promote Christianity. Even Ronnie James Dio, spinning on a. They're always going to say we're spinning on a world, spinning on a globe. Their world keeps turning. All this shit that promotes this idea, this belief system, that our eyes and actual science, actual mathematics, not the approved Freemasonic approved science that we get with the bullshit numbers and stuff and the confusing stuff, but the actual formulas like I just showed you on the paper. Actually, a lot of that got cut off too. Okay, so yeah, 3.14, that's pi, that's the circumference times the diameter of a circle. You cut that in half to get from the top to the bottom, 1.57 to 1 ratio. It holds true in all circles, including the world, which is obviously, therefore, not a circle, else I wouldn't be looking at 60-foot trees across 30 miles from here. Nope. I wouldn't be able to see them like 100 feet, 150 feet from here, so. Seriously. Try and stand on a ball. Doesn't matter how big it is. Ants can do it because they can walk vertically. He was walking much more vertically than usual. I was going to show that. I taped that off the Simpsons, right? Yeah, some guy with special sneakers for sneaking, as described by Homer Simpson's dad, Father Simpson, or whatever, Grandpa. Yeah, guy walking vertically. Well, ants can walk vertically. Okay? You can't stand on a ball very easily. Especially if it was hard. Because, just like my steering wheel here, just like this little flashlight, that ratio never changes, no matter how big it is. You walk 30 feet, you've dropped 20, and you've disappeared. So, all these hard rock guys, they go ahead and promote the same bullshit. If they promoted the truth, they wouldn't be at the top. Their contract with Capitol Records or Atlantic Records would be toast. They have to conform to the narrative. Water is not magnetic. It's it's non-magnetic. It's not hugging a circle. And that is miles and miles of level water. But the numbers are a lot simpler than the flat earthers have been telling you, because their top people are also controlled opposition. Just like you have in Mormonism, just like you have in everything where these Hegalean dialectics are set up to keep you within the bounds the Lord has set. I'm Dodger Dave, and I'm out. Okay, I hit the wrong fucking button. Who cares? Like, subscribe, send me lots and lots of money because I'm late for work.